Another live studio art stream. This is a new piece for the next Bizarchives 2, published by Dave Martell. I'll post the Amazon link in the show notes. Anyway, this is for issue 2, so obviously not out yet. I've been doing several streams on this. Earlier today, I was going to do a stream on, Afternoon at the Museum. Turns out StreamYard is down. Weird. So I don't know, something to do. Facebook is down. I don't know. Maybe the revolution has begun. Who knows? But I'm going to do some artwork in the meantime. If you would please share this link with your friends. I'm just going to focus on the art. Let me just take a second to share this, and I'll be back with you momentarily. Let me know if you like the music, or you want different music, or it's too loud or not loud enough. So say hello in the chat if you will. Let me know who's here. We got Seven Serpents. Music's just right, yeah. Something a little more up, you know. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of classical lately, which I like. For me, classical music is essentially, I don't know, it seems to be my go-to for when I'm doing artwork. I don't typically listen to classical music, though. Just not kind of my thing, I guess. But anyway, but as far as doing artwork, though, there's something about it. So here we have a scene of two sort of warriors fighting in a boat here. Again, these are illustrations for the upcoming Bizarchives 2. Each one of these illustrations that I've been doing, they're illustrations for stories. I'm not just kind of making this up off the top of my head. They go along with stories that were accepted in the Bizarchives 2. So that way you can get a sense of what the stories might be like and what they're about. You know, when you're doing like what they call spot illustrations for these short stories, obviously they have to convey what's going on in the story, right? So here you've got a Viking ship in the background here. It's filled with arrows, and you know, I have this guy here with his sword he's on a boat having a sword fight with another guy. Here, obviously, you have the two characters. I like montage. I think montage is a really cool kind of visual device. Drawing everything just sort of straight, like, you know, a scene from the story is fine, you know, that's fine, but I want the book to have variety. I want there to be, you know, visual variety, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So I've got some other montage and etc. etc. So anyway, now what's been tough about this particular project is thinking through the tonality, the line work, and the texture, the tone. There's a lot going on. So like right now, for example, I'm using all these little dash lines to create tone and texture on the Viking ship. Whereas the water is almost entirely, what do you call it? That marker I use, the Copic markers, the toned markers. And so I think that using a marker for the water, it's washy. It feels more like water in a sense. Whereas like if I use, like say, this scratchy line tone in here, it feels like pencil, right? So all of these things read, the eye reads these things in a certain way and feels them out. And so it just feels like water. So it's more successful as a work of art. I love the challenge of like doing more with less, having just black and white. I'm not sort of saying I don't want to do color or don't like doing color. Color is its own thing. There's artists that are masters of color, and a lot of the work that they do, in a sense, is about color, maybe more so than the illustration. And I'm sure that I'll get to that at some point. To me, it's all about what's the purpose. Oftentimes, I'm getting paid to do the work, so there's the question of what does the client want. I did the cover for the White People's Quarterly in the last issue, and I had quite a lot of discussion with the editor about that. And he wanted something traditional, just very traditional, And so the color that I use in that piece, it's essentially a woman riding in a boat on a lake in a kind of a sort of like a Imperium world, the sort of ideal world where whites are not overrun by unwanted migrants, immigrants, and that our architecture reflects our culture, our values, our ideologies, etc., etc. There's actually a lot of little Easter eggs in that cover art if people look closely, and I gave that art away as a sort of a gift through the White Art Collective. We had, oh, what was it? I forget what it's called. It's a contest of some kind. And whoever won the contest, I shipped it off. Of course, I signed it, So that's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm just going off on tangents here. Let me check the check the chat real quick. See if you guys are swearing your heads off or what you're doing over there. Seven Servants. Nullis, my good friend. JD Soloway, it's wonderful to have you here. Let's see. Oops, sorry, I'm shaking the camera a lot. Looks like there's just 3 comments, so okay. If you're here, I don't know, say hi in the chat so I know who's watching. And if you have any questions, feel free. I will say I'm kind of struggling with this piece. What does that mean when an artist is struggling with a piece? That would mean that you're kind of struggling with the idea of how should I do this? How do I want this to look? It's one thing to lay out the composition. The composition is its own thing, right? That's all just straight lines and putting the parts and pieces where they go. I'm using the classical Z pattern here. It's really more of a 7. It's not really a lot here. It's kind of almost a negative space. But the eye is going to sort of kind of go back and forth here a bit. That, what do you call it? The oar of the boatman and the sword here, they're both parallel to each other. So this is a kind of a visual device to lead the eye down this way and or back up this way. You see what I'm saying? The what do you call it? The masts here, the way that they kind of push the eye in this direction. The boat, the sense of space that the boat is going back into space. You know, you want to use as much perspective drawing as you can without making it cartoony or silly, I guess. Like I forced perspective is something that you see a lot on, like, say, a Spider-Man comic book. So, you know, where he's like stretched out, like he's elastic. He looks like he's made out of rubber, and that's what you do when you're doing Spider-Man. If I wanted to get a job doing Spider-Man comics, I had better know how to draw like that. You know what I'm saying? That would be the thing to do. So I need to now look at. I've drawn these shields along the what do you call it here? The boat, and so in order to make them kind of smaller, I've got to use. Well, for starters, they're not perfect circles; they're ovals. They, you know, mentally you think of them as circles, but visually, they actually are slightly ovular, if that's a word. And because it's tilted towards us, right? And that changes. So every single piece has to work to convey the perspective, like the angle of the horse's head on here. It was really fun researching, you know, the various things to do with, like, say, Viking ships. And that, you know, that sends you on a kind of a goose chase, because then you start thinking, my God, you know, these are people, and the bravery and heroicism of you know, and then even just the technical ability, the engineering ability, the and who knows what kind of, like, what's the word I'm looking for, like experimentation and cause and effect, and mistakes that people had to make to kind of build these ships and be able to go from, like, Denmark to Iceland to Nova Scotia, you know. It's quite amazing. You know, I there's a lot of good guys out there doing videos on this topic. I posted something recently. You guys can check it out on my Twitter. But one of the interesting things about Viking society is that there were sort of these different kind of levels of kings, I guess. That you had a king, but you had sort of lesser kings, I suppose. And when they had their meetings in these gigantic halls that they created, they would kind of, you know, give treasures to the king. And obviously these treasures were taken from conquests. And then that basically spurred on this culture of conquest and exploration, you know. There's just so many fascinating stories. There's so much of our history. I say our, I know that, you know, this is specific to a certain ethnic group, but I do feel that it is our history, though, regardless if you say, you know, Central European or something. There's still something in the biospirit. You know, now we're going to Mars, you know, and don't get me started on the Mars and the UFO stuff, because then I'll go off on a fascinating journey. So let's do a quick check on the chat. We got top chat. Let's see. We got 7 servants. Oh, Bodacious. Welcome, my man. What do we got going on? Anybody else? No? Well, thanks to the 10 people that are here joining me. I'll do a little bit of a close-up and let you kind of scan the image. As you can see here, I see Annullis. Thank you so much for joining. You can see the details on the ship. You can see the outline of the men on the ship. And then, of course, you've got the mast there, the lead character facing off with the villain, bravely wielding his sword and openly inviting death, and with kind of like mocking the villain there, who he set out on a challenge to fight him on a boat, and it's and then of course I'm doing this kind of montage with these two characters. So that's there's a story there, right? And I mean, using the splashing of the water here and here is, in a sense, it creates a certain balance. It highlights this area here with his hand holding the, what do you call it, the scimitar. Um, Also, I wanted to create a sense of motion, that, like, imagine trying to do a sword fight on a boat. That's horrible. That would be a very hard thing to do. Me being a martial arts guy, like, I can tell you that grounding yourself is everything. It's everything. You've got to be well grounded in order to control everything. And I don't know. It's just an interesting topic, I suppose. Nerd out on martial arts or something. So I'm sort of wondering, like, how far do I want his hair flowing over? Do I want it interfacing in here as if I can't quite figure that out. Also, I'm sort of feeling through, like, what would the lighting be on his face? Like, and then, for example, I'll give you an idea. Like, I'm thinking of doing something where I'm kind of shading it softly, like so, and then using, kind of blurring it and this kind of thing. Frankly, I really need to get darker pencils or maybe some charcoal to create the effects that I'm really going for. It's always too late. I'm always like, oh, I want to do this thing. I'm like, I don't have the tools for that. But, that sort of sets me up for the next time. So here, like, I kind of mush it up a bit and see if we can get, like, a blending is what I'm talking about here. So the trick with shading, though, I find, is that if you put, I don't know how to say this, like, sometimes if you shade somebody's face too much, it kind of makes them look older. And so you have to be cautious about how you do that. I'm trying to use some dramatic shading here that would kind of emphasize his bone structure. A little shadow behind the nose there helps it to push it forward a bit as well. How's the music, guys? Is that all right? What's funny is that in the end, the book is only like yay big, so this will get squished down. And then when you take an image like this and you condense it down, it looks even more detailed, which is kind of a cool effect. I just have to say, like, I can't, as an artist, this doesn't make sense to me, but people love lots of detail in art. For some reason, there's something about that, the most commonly asked question is, how long did it take you to do that? And fair enough, or whatever, in a sense, it's never about the time you put in. It's about the skill that you have, and the concept, right? I want you to feel something. I want you to be engaged with the work, in a sense. It's sort of like a film. If you see a film, you wouldn't say, wow, I wonder how long it took you to make that film. nobody would ever think to say something like that. You know, you'd be more like, wow, that really made me feel this way. You know, it made me think about these ideas or something. You know, check the chat real fast here. Music is quiet but good. Yeah, I don't want it to be overbearing. They're asking because it looks so bad. They feel bad. Oh yeah, does this artwork make you feel bad? Sean McGo. Am I pronouncing that correct? Like Van Gogh, McGo? It's the Irish Van Gogh. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Sean. Okay. So I'm kind of debating whether I should ink the faces or like how much ink should I use and how much pencil should I use. The pencil, it's not as medium range tones basically. And you want to have like 1 to 10. You want to have a lot of tonal variety, which I think you guys have seen in my other work. Let me quickly show you something. Okay, so I finished this one from the last time. I assume you guys saw it. What do we got here? So, like, look at the tonal variety in that, right? Quite awesome, right? So let's have another look at the chat here. We got, it's Mr. Magoo, Cuckoo, Kachoo, nice. We got a little John Lennon action. Don't let the door, uh-oh, something's going on. They feel bad for you. Okay, do we have a troll here? Maybe put down the pencil and pick up some weights. How's your bone structure, buddy? Yeah, I like your Pink Floyd logo there. Pink Floyd's one of my favorite bands. Face detail is tricky one for me. It seems less is more. Okay. So anyway, tonal variety. This one's got a lot of it, right? Yeah. And then it's kind of fun to turn it sideways. And then, so the last time I showed this, I didn't have these lines in here and here. And I also put tone into the planet here, so that pushes the, what do you call it, the space station forward more. All right. And there you go. So let's set that aside. So what I'm doing here with the pencil on the face is at least working out where do things go, like what's the shape of the shadow. You get the idea. Yeah. And these guys are squaring off for a battle, a duel to the death, you know, so there's pretty intense feelings going on here. You want to try to show that. But at the same time, like, I like the idea of this hero being kind of casual about it, you know. Kind of thinking I might change the music though. This is a little on the sweet side, so hold on. Let me find something.
Algical does what other calciums.
little acid jazz. So, face details tricky. Yes, people who draw would make great tattoo artists. Rise of the Right is here. Yeah, I have been asked many times, why don't you do tattoos or something like that? And it's not my thing. On top of that, the idea of like working on human skin is a little morbid, I guess, for me. I don't know what, I just don't know about that. But anyway, so there you go. This is this. I feel like I have to make a decision here. I've got to figure out what am I going to do as far as inking. How about I'll ink these guys in the boat, but I'll leave the faces penciled. That could be nice because they're almost more dreamy, right? It's a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a montage, you get the idea. So I'll put this guy away, and but man, I mean, talk about detail. There's quite a lot happening in here. Just like the focus on this guy's face alone really is very expressive, but all the sort of tech stuff, the architectural stuff, the cloud patterns on the planet, a lot going on in that one. All right, so let's get down to business. We're gonna get into this a bit. I feel like I wanna use some heavy blacks in here to start letting the picture pop out more. When you're using black, it's, black and white obviously is very stark, a certain quality that comes from it that pushes the visuals out at you. And think of it like if you're seeing a stage play and the whole stage is dark and then they cast a spotlight on one person. That's kind of an example of how light and dark interact. Oops, my hat keeps hitting the phone. So yeah, I was gonna do a live stream today, afternoon at the museum, and for whatever reason, StreamYard was down. It was weird. I don't know what to say. And then somebody told me that Facebook was down, and StreamYard is supposedly a Facebook thing. I don't know, like they're connected, or I don't know, maybe Facebook owns StreamYard or something. And sure enough, I Googled or I searched Facebook, and I couldn't see it. So I can't imagine Facebook being down, though. I mean, that's like the largest social media network on the planet. You're talking essentially the entire planet, is on it, or almost, right? And how in the heck would the whole thing go down? I'll admit I secretly hope that means that, like, the arrests have begun. You know what I'm saying? Like that it's time. It's time for the cabal to go down. And it's weird how social media has become like an extension of our being, and it's such a kind of a thing that we almost can't live without, which I don't think is very healthy. But what are you gonna do? I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna need to use a ruler on this here. It's getting real. So even like the ridge of this, I don't know what to call it, the wood on the edge of the boat there, that's got to work with the perspective drawing as well. It's kind of thinner on one end than on the other, so that gives you a sense, the sense of space going back. I put this little thing on the top here that it's like a place where you would tie the boat to a dock. I thought that was kind of a cool little. It's the little things, they kind of add up, you know, it creates that illusion. You get the idea. All right. Every once in a while, if I'm doing a piece that's very complex, I might accidentally, let's say, like you see his arm is overlapping the edge of the boat. I might actually go through his arm or something, and then you want to smash your head against a wall. But you know, I can use what do you call it, whiteout, to fix that, but it's kind of clunky. I don't like the way it looks. What I end up doing is I just have to fix it in Photoshop, you know, and it's what I call Photoshop surgery. You know, there's got to be some kind of surgery on the artwork to fix it up. And you know, especially if it's paid work, you don't want to do that. That's, you know, the longer you work, the less you get paid. That's how that works. But I really am feeling like I want to change the music again. Sorry for being so, what's the word? Picky? I don't know. Let's see what we got. How do you not make mistakes that you just seem to draw without any rubbing out? Let me change the music and I'll talk about that. Okay. No, 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 no. Commercials be gone. All right. The best of Maurice Ravel. Ladies and gentlemen, Maurice Ravel. So, and bell bottom jeans. I missed the joke. Did I hear some Eric Satie? Yes, I love Satie. I'm a big fan. But I listen to it too much, so I got to change. Boy, I'm missing a great conversation going on here. Suspiciously 70s. Seem to remember something similar. Well, regarding how do I draw without making mistakes, that there is an answer to that actually. I don't not make mistakes. I mean, I occasionally will make a mistake, but there's a system involved whereby where you build up the image. So I'll build up the image with light pencil, and that way I can erase as I go and feel it out. And then once I'm certain that, like, okay, that's how that should work or look, whatever, then I'll darken it up. I might go straight into inking. Like, I'm good enough at inking now where I can just sketch something lightly and then ink it out, you know. I've had to learn how to do that because when you're doing comic book illustration, it's very time consuming and time is money. So there you go. But it may look like I'm just flowing along, but it's not really that. I don't know. There's a system. I'll just kind of put it that way. When you lay it all out with pencil first, then you pretty much can't make a mistake. You're, in a sense, you're just going over the pencil lines. Now, there's a really well-known Korean artist in sort of the comic book world. It's not so much known for his comics, but his concept art, and he uses a kind of a. It's essentially a like one of those uh, ink brushes that I've been using, and he's I would say like he's like some kind of autism or something, like a savant or something like this, whereby he just will go. He draws straight out of his head, and when I say draw, I mean he inks it. Like he'll have an ink brush, and just and no preliminaries at all. I have to have preliminaries. You know, I have to see what it is that I'm doing. Um, and I did actually watch an interview with him about how he does it, and it was helpful. It was you know, something that anybody in any craft is going to want to listen to other professionals talk about how they do their craft, right? You know, so he kind of explained it like there's a certain, like, he uses, in his mind he visualizes like the boxes that they inhabit. um so like, you know, like this head right here, you know, if I could draw sort of a box that the head is in, and that's a 3D space. Each one of these are in a kind of a longish box, and they're all kind of stacked on top of each other. And he sort of approaches it like that. That might not have made much sense, but it's the kind of thing artists would understand, I guess. For me, one of the hardest um, aspects of this piece is actually this water. I mean, how do you draw splashing water? You know, it tends to be very foamy and white. I mean, if you look at photos, which of course I did, and then what that ends up meaning is that you have to draw the tones around it to make it kind of pop out. So, by the way, my phone is on 20% right now, so if everything just stops like it sometimes does, then you know why. Good to see you, AZ. Hey, Prometheus. It's good to have all you guys here. I'm always grateful for your presence and your time. So I try to talk, you know, and talk through the work that I'm doing. I mean, we could talk about anything, you know. I recently I've been doing a lot of studies on just, you know, analyzing the news to see where we're at, and like, is there any hope? You know, like, when is this going to end? All this kind of stuff that's going on. And I did recently get some good news. Um, I believe I posted it on my Twitter. So it's a guy who's one of these ex-military whistleblower types who works on some secret programs. And I know that right off the top sounds suspicious, but I think if you've done your homework, you know that, you know, the government has all kinds of programs that are not meant to be public. Um, anyway, one of the programs has to do with studying uh, algorithms in the news and on the internet, and there is a way in which they read and predict events through understanding these algorithms. I would say, so for starters, this particular thing I'm talking about, this individual, he's just one guy doing it. There's other people reporting on that same topic, and just like any kind of science, you would want to listen to like look at different people and what data they're finding, right? You say like, okay, in my research, I found X, and then see if that corroborates with the other guy's research, and he found X too, or etc. So, long story short, the message is essentially that it looks like the cabal, or whatever you want to call it, is we're the analogy used is that we're in a chess game, and pro chess players can look at a board and see they're like 5 moves away from winning or losing, because they know, if I go here or there or here or there, that the other guy has to do this move or that move, right? And I guess for lack of a better term, the deep state has tried out all these different variations on, like, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? How do we stay in power and continue our controlled demolition of America? And the computers, for the first time, all came to the same conclusion, which is that what they call the Great Awakening is unstoppable. And that is one thing to say that. It's like, okay, I get it. I don't disagree with that, actually. I mean, I think it's easy to believe that. But at the same time, there's the question of, well, what does it mean? Does that actually change anything? Like but I feel as if that so much of what's happening is, in a sense, like an illusory war, an information war. Um, it's a compliance war. It depends on people's ignorance in order to pull off the shit that they're pulling off. And when people, quote, wake up to it, that should take the power away. At this point, barring a full-on revolution, it seems to me that civil disobedience is our only option. I know that's a big topic, and certainly not a topic one can talk very freely about on like a YouTube show. But it seems to be where we're at. So I feel hopeful. I'm just going to put it that way. I've kind of passed a certain threshold, and I can't take, months of research or even years of research and put it into a half-hour discussion or something. I know what I know. I can sort of condense it for people, but I find that a lot of times when you tell people stuff, their first reaction is like incredulity. They're incredulous. They're, oh, I don't know. How do you know that? Da, da, da. And like, that's fair enough. You should want to know how somebody knows something. But at the same time, it's like when you go to I don't know, a mechanic or something, and you ask them to fix something. You don't demand that they show you how they know what they know. So, fair enough, whatever, you can go find out for yourself. It's not enough, I think, to just have the internet and try to look for things. You've got to go through a very rigorous process of vetting out good resources. There's a lot of kind of resources out there. It's just all people saying the same thing, and they kind of get their news from each other, and then they just repeat blah blah blah. There's a lot of grifters, and you could, in a sense, you could say there's good grifters and bad grifters, in that there's people that care about liberty and want to save the world and yada yada, but they have to sell I don't know, like a month's supply of stored food or dried foods or something, and I'm not knocking them by saying that, because they're doing a service, they whatever. But at the same time, there's just so many of them that it feels like, eh, you know. So anyway, that just seems to me like there's different tiers of understanding. TIER. Spencer Quinn can. Let me check the messages here. I'm kind of yammering on like a damn fool. What are you guys talking about? We got the Bizarre Archives. Can't stick around for the stream. Just wanted to pop in. Good to see you, my brother. Big Dave is here. Yeah, I didn't really announce this so much because I was supposed to do the other stream and it didn't work. CG is back. Good to have you with us. Community building is really going to be yeah. You nailed it right there. Community building is pretty much everything at this point. We have to rebuild the West. We literally have to rebuild society. We have to make it so that we're not dependent on a system that would, fire us or shut us down because we won't comply with some genocidal program that they have. We have to have our own police, our own doctors, our own teachers, our own supermarkets, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not going to happen overnight. But I'll tell you right off the bat, I've already got something started. I can't really say how I got that started, but I've got something started locally with that. And I was really impressed and really happy to see that there's a lot more people out there that know what's going on than one might think. We're sort of in these little social media echo chambers where like some people really like Facebook, others really like Twitter. I found that like Twitter and Facebook people kind of don't like each other. It's weird. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's sort of like, competition. I don't know. It's like sports teams or something. Anyway, it is what it is, as they say. But yeah, that's correct. So this is kind of the stage. I'm sort of jumping right to the dessert here. I like to work with these brush pens. They're real bouncy and they kind of allow you to have fun with the work. I mean, you got to try to think like, let's say a musician is, they're gonna want to jam out of it. Well, like the brush pens, they've got some buoyancy to them, and they allow you to be creative and to kind of have some fun with the drawing. I always feel that probably sounds weird to people who don't do artwork or don't draw, ink, paint, whatever. Painting, it's a whole other thing. Like the wetness, the viscosity of the paint, it's this organic kind of material that has a life of its own, and it's part of the joy of painting. So here I'm really just like painting with ink, though. It's kind of what's happening. And sometimes I'll get an idea that I'll be like, oh yeah, I can do that, and I just thought of it now, for example. Like I don't have to work out the whole damn thing in pencil. That takes the fun out of it. You have to have enough there. You kind of like draw the roads, so to speak, and then you drive on the roads with the inking. That was a pretty good analogy, if I do say so myself. So arrogant. Now that does not sound like Ravel. That sounds like a commercial. And I don't do commercials on my show, so I'm gonna get rid of that garbanzo. Alright. I feel like I'm missing out on a really great conversation with the people in the chat right now. Let's see what's happening. What do we got? Cryptocurrency. Good point there. Feel the stronger community, weaker system. Yeah, that's exactly the whole thing is that we can't be reliant on the system, and we also have to get rid of the parasites in the system. That's a whole new problem. Wet on wet paint, you can make mistakes. Yeah, beautiful art. Thank you, Melody Dawn. Welcome, Melody Dawn. It seems like we got a new person with us. Ben Ward, that head is too big. We're talking about which head here. I don't know which one you're talking about. These are obviously, what do you call them? It's a montage. So, let's see, what did he say? What parasites? Haha. Well, anybody in the chat want to tackle that one? That could be. It's a taboo topic. It's not something that YouTube would want me to talk about, so I'm not going to. But I would recommend going to goyimtv.tv, and you will get mountains of data on it, on the parasites I'm talking about. They essentially own everything, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to kind of go down that road too much. It's funny though, I did post a video on my Twitter not long ago where I asked the question, do they run the world? And the video shows all these different people who run all of the most major corporations and social media platforms, big pharma, etc. And a lot of people liked that post. So this part here is kind of interesting. He's got these, I've never really seen these until I did some research. It's some kind of a armor that goes around your wrists, and they're just made out of strips of metal, like a xylophone bells, if you will, and they're somehow tied around the arm. Kind of interesting. So he's fighting. Essentially, these are like marauders. They're like thieves, in a sense, raiders. And so I'm making them look a little bit tattered. They've got like patches and holes in their clothes, and almost they sort of look more like pirates in a way. So all their armor comes from. They're stealing it from various ships and other peoples. My battery's getting really low. It's down to 10% now. So at some point here, I should wrap this up before it goes into. What does it always do? It always goes into like what is it called? Like buffering, and it's stuck in like buffering hell. It can't undo itself, and it's weird. That it's because I'm so focused on the work. You know what? This discussion, though, it seems like maybe we should do a show on it. Get a few people on and start talking through rebuilding society, how to do it. How can we create the Imperium, seed the Imperium, you know. It's a big topic. It's funny how certain people feel like, how dare you talk about having your own country, like as if whites don't, for whatever reason, are not allowed to, that we have to share them, our countries and our resources with other people. And, you know, certain parasites behind that narrative. This guy riding the boat, it's an interesting device because like he's like a secondary character, but in the story somebody rowed the boat out to this Viking ship where the two leaders could have a duel, a battle. And I thought, well, who the heck would ride that boat, And I thought maybe he'd be more like an indentured servant or a slave or something. Somebody who, like, not a warrior, essentially. If this is some kind of a duel between these two guys here, that, if you brought another soldier out, he's outnumbered, right? So let me turn this commercial off so you guys don't have to listen to it. As I always say, the commercials are the bane of my existence. So let's check the chat a bit here. Top chat. CG, a good meme. Access to white people isn't a human right. I love that one. What does it's weird. Whenever I hit the chat thing, they come up and then they fade away, and I don't have time to read them. What does something guy at the top, the guy at the top represent? Is that good? So the face here is this guy here. The face here is this guy here. It's a montage. So it's in a sense showing these two close up. This is one of the challenges. Can you draw Venom? Of course I can. I do take commissions. If you want to commission me some artwork, I'd love to help you out with that. I wonder if anybody saw the recent Carnage movie. The ones you cannot criticize. Yeah, expose the nose. Expose the nose. That's a good one. Get on that, man. You got to meme that. The ones who shut down for politely asking them to leave you alone. Exactly. I've been subscribed for a long time. Glad to see you live. Yes, wonderful to have you, Melody. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about. So, having fun. Yeah, that's what's up. So I'm really disappointed that I couldn't do the show I had planned for today. My friend CG and I were going to do an episode of Afternoon in the Gallery, at the gallery, and he selected some art movements that I really like: classicism, neoclassicism, and romanticism. We're going to do that tomorrow night. We're postponing it. I don't know what is going on with StreamYard, but they flopped. They couldn't work, and it's all right. We'll just do it tomorrow, I guess. By the way, CG has been on American Zarathustra twice talking about fourth generation warfare. So his background is in military, and he's quite studied on the topic. Um, if CG's in the chat, maybe you can tell the other people what other shows you've been on. But I recommend people check that out on my YouTube. Really, really important discussions. It fits right in with what we were talking about, like understanding where we are, where we're going, who's, you know, who's sort of in charge of what's going on. You know, fourth generation warfare is, in many ways, it's not worse than World War I, World War II. Those are obviously horrible, unnecessary wars. But the idea of infiltrating all of the systems and institutions of a society and then rotting them out from the inside is so evil. It's so profoundly evil. It's a new kind of evil. It's, killing people with bombs and guns in a battlefield in traditional warfare is quite brutal, but getting their kids addicted to drugs and, teaching women that, they can always use divorce to get what they want instead of, traditional values and all that. I could go on and on. It's pretty big topic. I know you guys already know, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel here to talk about it. Anyway, 4th G Warfare with CG on American Zarathustra. Check it out. I find there's different kinds of people that like different kinds of content, and I'm interested in it all. It all fits together in some way, like reacquainting ourselves with the arts and our history. That's an important part of our health, our kind of cultural health. So that's part of why I do those afternoon at the museum shows. So I'm really concerned that my phone's just gonna die on me here, and then we'll get stuck in buffering land. So what I'll do here is maybe check the chat real quick, and then I think I'm gonna wrap it up. We've gone over an hour, and let's see what's up, CG. We got expose it. I like exposing. Yes. Can you draw venom? Yes. So yeah, if you do want to do the commission, AmericanZarathustra.com, or you can just contact me in the comments below. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. It's an honor to be in your company. And keep it real. Keep your chin up. We're going to win this fight. Things are changing. I want to wish you guys a wonderful day, and laters. Yes, and we'll see you. How's the weather? We'll see you guys when we see you. Cheers.